computer. And I will put it up on LinkedIn, I mean, on YouTube, and send you all the link. Okay? Uh, it's your meeting.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah. So what we wanted to do today was mainly align on the project objectives. We got a very detailed document which we went through the project objectives document. We wanted to discuss that and then just talk about any questions we have or align on what the expectations would be. And then maybe we can also talk about a high level timeline of when we might be expecting those deliverables. Like we saw there were 5 objectives. So what is the plan? Stuff like that. So that was the main agenda for today. And another thing is that we have the end of quarter meeting next next week. Yeah. So probably once we've aligned on this, then we'll create some decks from our end where we put all this into a structure that's been given to us, and then we can have more like a confirmation meeting next week. I think the meeting is next week, 11th, if I remember right.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Mhm. And I think to get started again, we have 5 objectives. We thought we'll kind of split it amongst ourselves and then talk. But before we jump into the objective, we also wanted to clarify the data part because that might be something that will link all the 5 objectives. And Yushwan would be taking that up for now.
So I think I understood what you said. The data, I did put in the latest
Mhm.
user data.
Yeah.
I also put in, let me see, under membership. Let me see. Let me see here. Let's see. Forgive me. Let's see. I put in membership data as well. So I did an analysis of the membership data, which you can have a look at. It's by no means complete or particularly useful at this point, just not enough data. And I also did under the user folder, user data, I did an updated download as of today of all of the profile that were generated. Okay.
Yep, yep. We saw that, and then I think we also got the access to Google Analytics. But apart from that, Yujan just wanted to ask about like the data pipeline. How do we build it and stuff like that? Yeah. Over to you, Yujan.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, so like my question regarding to the data pipeline is about like first we have the objective of the li LinkedIn scraping, right? I'm wondering like what specific data we want to get from the LinkedIn.
So the scraping of LinkedIn was something that Carrie had brought up as one of the functions. And I don't know how you do it. I know a lot of companies try to do it and do it. I have no idea if there's fees involved or not. But that said, to answer your question, I see this most useful to for users, for subscribers, and less useful for Abacus per se. Okay, because Abacus is a tool that the user inputs the data. We don't provide data
Okay.
on an individual. So that said, say I'm a subscriber and I have a list of donors that I want to run a profile on in Abacus. Wouldn't it be great if I could also do a scrape of these people or people that work in a given company or people who live in the Boston area and have, so let's talk about it. A fundraiser would want to know, where does the person work? Where have they worked? And for how long?
Hmm.
If their contact information includes an email address, then by all means. Their LinkedIn address would be important. Their profile,
Yep.
right? Perhaps even a recent post or two that they generated, which is in a place in LinkedIn, that can be accessed. I guess their location, and I guess these days their pronouns. LinkedIn is starting to ask that question.
Hmm.
So, but that's particularly important with names that are sort of gender neutral. They can go either way. And you don't know if you're what the salutate, what the greeting is, Mr. or Ms. or that kind of thing. And these days it's particularly complicated, but at least starting by knowing someone's gender that they're using through the pronouns would be valuable to a fundraiser.
Hmm.
There's also a section in LinkedIn about volunteer activities. So including that in the scrape of an individual's record would be valuable. I'm going through LinkedIn. Their schooling, where they went to college. That way you might be able to find in your database people who are alum or in a similar class, or maybe they were in a similar class, and you can start building those linkages. Hey,
Hmm.
Larry went to UC Berkeley. Maybe he knows Bill Gross, who also went there and is also a donor. And it's a way, because I'm either on the board of the organization, right? If I were them, I would scrape every board member of the organization to begin with, all of their top donors to begin with, and to help them begin to build profiles more efficiently, to be sure, if that were an option. And it'd be a tremendous asset to Abacus to offer that to subscribers.
I see. Understand.
And and you would need to obviously educate me about how do you do it? How do you execute a scrape? So,
Like we had some experience on like web scraping, but I know like the if you want to scrape on LinkedIn, it has some restrictions. Like this website has some like restrictions compared to like Amazon or something. So yeah, so it needs like some like research. Um, so like so I'm thinking like you just talk about like uh we first need to get like some like uh uh more data, like basically the user information like f based on what the subscribers want to know about. And so are we just providing like a list of user data, or do we like need like some like further uh uh like uh conclusion based on this user information?
Well, I think first being able to identify
Mhm.
the information you're able to get,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
right? Starting with that.
Hmm.
And depending on how a scrape can be executed, if it could be executed from within Abacus in some way,
I
uh,
see.
all the better,
Hmm.
to be sure. If not, the tool would be provided to subscribers independent
Hmm.
of the environment of Abacus.
Hmm.
So understanding what you can get and how to get it is a good first step.
I
Uh,
got.
and I could see where to flip that on its head to say, I'm looking for C-suite executives who have worked in biotechnology in Boston,
Hmm.
right? That's another approach uh, for using LinkedIn. I'm not giving you names, I'm giving you uh, a profile of the kind of donor I'm looking for. And
Okay.
then LinkedIn would say, hey, I found 50 people who are senior executives in a life sciences or biotech or whatever it may be. It could be in the grocery industry, whatever the industry is. Um, and if that's the kind of scraping you're thinking about, that's fine. Or if that's the only kind that you can do, that's fine. But we need to know what you can retrieve, what you can get when you execute a scrape.
I see.
Good
Yeah.
place. It's a good place to start right there. Uh, and then think of it both in looking up these 10 people or looking up senior executives in biotech in Boston.
Yep.
I could right now, I could go to LinkedIn and plug in a job title. And I've
Hmm.
done this. And you'll get tens of thousands of people with that job title. And then
Yep.
you can narrow it to Boston, let's say. You're still going to have many hundreds. And to plow through that takes forever and isn't a very helpful way to approach it versus a
Hmm.
tool that you could create to aggregate quickly.
I see. Yeah. So also basically like it's like we are building a tool, and it's not about to like to like uh uh like uh expand our database. It's only about like when its subscribers want like those information, and they can use this tool to like get data, right?
That's right. It's a value add to the subscriber.
Got it, got it.
Some of what is scraped can
Mhm.
go into the profile that is generated by Abacus in that page that has extra notes that you do extra notes in. It would be there, but it would not be part of the algorithm, if that's what you're thinking,
Oh
in order,
yeah, yeah.
in order to come up with an amount. There would
I
that would, the if at all, the only way that would happen is, do they have a LinkedIn profile or not? It would be a binary question within Abacus, and it's not very meaningful to anything, uh,
Mhm.
really, in terms of fundraising. Whether or not they have a profile If they don't have a profile, that may mean that they're very wealthy and they don't bother with that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or they have one because they're working people.
Mhm.
So I looked at every single question in Abacus and had discussions and arguments with fundraisers, about the relative value of the question and what an answer means in terms of the ability to give and to give to your organization. And that's how I arrived at those 21 core questions. And things like, do they have kids, and are they nearing retirement? Are they retired? The retirement stuff, yeah, that's important. Life cycle is important. Whether they have kids isn't, because their giving and their behavior is what it is, even with the kids. There are many families where the amount of a college tuition is a rounding error. So it's irrelevant to their ability to give,
Yep.
right? So or are they a senior vice president of a $20 million company, or are they senior vice president of a $2 billion company? Makes a big difference.
Yep.
So the job title is meaningless too.
Mhm.
Got it. Yeah, I think this was helpful. Uh, and yeah, I think we'll also talk with Carrie about what exactly she was thinking and then continue with the LinkedIn scraper. But overall, we've got an idea. It's more to augment the abilities and not as such add to our data. So moving forward, we wanted to get into the next set of objectives, which was on increasing the subscriber base and then converting people from the free plan to the more paid, like the basic plan to the pipeline and all the paid plans. And Rashmila will be talking about that.
Yeah,
And
so the first two objectives, how we just wanted to go over and check if our understanding of objectives is how you had planned on it originally. And we had a few ways of going about it, about on the implementation. So we just wanted to quickly run it over if you're thinking along the lines that you had planned on it. So the first two objectives specifically say that we want to increase the number of people signing up for the various subscription options. And the second one says that we want to get the current subscribers to use the Abacus tool more so that they convert to paid subscribers. So how I am understanding this is that we need to ideally do some sort of experimentation testing in order to check what um, approaches or what methods could help increase, let's say, the user number of users signing up or number of users converting to paid subscribers, and whether that approach is through changing something on the current subscription page, whether it's changing up a pricing tool. How we were seeing it is that we would have to take the route of doing an experimentation or like testing control versus a variant. Is that something that you had in mind? We just wanted to align on that. Is that something that you had in mind? If not, what do you think of that idea?
well, to do A/B testing, like you're talking about, you need high volume for it to be meaningful. And I'll give you an example. I used to be a partner in a company that does direct mail fundraising, right? Not e-fundraising, but mail, paper mail fundraising. And to do an A/B test, you need at least 5,000 pieces of mail for A and 5,000 for B
Mm.
to to get, so you have a control, you always have your control, and what can you design to beat your control, to do better? So you need big numbers. So another approach might be, there are something like 75 people who did the free trial. Maybe a survey to them, a survey that you design, that you do your research about people's interface with SaaS products, right? And there's a lot of literature out there on this, and to arrive at 5 or 10 questions, no more. And I could then work with you to get it out to those people. Particularly, I can identify those people. I did that today, of who started with a free and then went to basic, and who went from free to paying, and who went from basic to paying. And that's in the folder. It's in the user folder. And I know who those people are, and I have their email addresses, and I think maybe even their phone numbers. And we could find out, early on, we did a real quick survey. There were maybe 10 or 12 people who did the free session and didn't sign up. So, and this is back in September of last year, year ago. And all but one, we had 7 or 8 responses. We got a pretty high response rate, and said that they were just curious. Just wanted to kick the tires, see what it was like, see what it was about. They didn't need it then, but they were just curious, which is fine. It was brand new, right? So now I have some brand awareness out there now, which I think is why people are signing up and paying increasingly, it looks like. And with brand awareness comes familiarity and fewer obstacles, psychological obstacles, to actually thinking about integrating it into your workflow, which is where you want to be. You want to just make it part of your everyday workflow. And that's why getting it into a database is so important, right? So they don't have to log on and go to their Abacus site. They just open their database, which they do every morning, and have it on all day to be there.
So, a follow-up on this, if I'm understanding correctly, it's more around instead of the testing, we can more go about user research and user surveys, and whatever information we can collect from there, then we choose to implement whatever changes.
It could inform. That will inform potential changes or potential A/B testing in live on Abacus. So I'm not ruling out A/B testing. All I'm saying is that you need to know what you're testing.
Got it. Yes, of course.
And talking to users is where to begin. And literally speaking to them is even better, harder. But maybe one of the questions is, would you be willing to have a 10-minute chat about this? Boom. Phone number. Right?
And we ask about 5 to 10 questions just to ask about the pain points, what's stopping them from signing up more, or converting to a paid subscriber. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And in fact, if you'd like, I could share with you the survey we did, if I can find it, uh, uh, so that you can see at least what we found and results.
Okay.
I'll find it and I'll get it to you.
Sure, that'd be helpful. So one more thing
So
is,
does that make sense that before you test, you need to know what you're testing
yeah, of course,
and for what gain?
and to understand where exactly the pain point is,
Yeah.
before we go ahead and um, test a feature of our own choice. But even if we want to, let's say we just want to understand the roadmap a little bit of how this is going to go, so we can also plan better.
Sure.
Um, let's say we talk to the users or subscribers, we get an idea of where exactly they're struggling. What kind of capacity for conducting an A/B test do we have currently at Abacus? Do we have someone who's on the technical data side? This is one of the reasons we wanted to um, understand more on what I believe Richard Stearman is doing. Is he more on the engineering side? If we need
Richard built the site. He coded the algorithm.
okay,
And so he is right now the technical guy. He can do whatever needs to be done with regard to that site.
okay, that's good. And if we need any design changes, that would also we would also he would be our point of contact, is what I
Well,
assume.
after we agree to what that might look like and so forth, yeah, he would be the one who would make the changes.
Okay.
It might be a way that the things are presented on the website for purchase, the purchase page. Maybe that's a problem, right? It's always a wish that I'd love to I'd love to know the people who came to the site spent 55 seconds, and then left. Right? Why did they stay that long and then leave? To be able to capture that, talk about scraping, to be able to capture web traffic for survey purposes is I don't know. I don't even know if it's doable. It may be doable. Big Brother, I mean, the big tech, big data probably can do it.
Right.
Maybe you can explore that part to see if there's some way to capture web traffic, that bounces off.
Yeah, this is actually the kind of insights we were initially looking at, just to see how many people are clicking on a specific button. Uh, and then if, let's say, they are not converting, that gives us an idea of, okay, they've gone through this far to the funnel, but then they've dropped off. And
Yeah.
that's where we would ask, even from a user survey, user questioning point of view, that's to that specific user, we would ask more specific questions that, hey, you went so far down through the funnel. This is where you dropped off. Can you tell us what were you expecting and what you didn't find?
Yeah. So were you able to get into the Google Analytics that you're able to get in? Great. I never know that I'm getting it right. There may be it may be appropriate for you to learn more about Google Analytics. There may be more code that can be applied to the website to get deeper information. And in fact, I think there is. I don't have it installed, but I think there is another layer of analytics that I'm more than happy to include and add to the site. and Richard would do that, of course, but so you might look into that as part of your work.
Sure. While we're talking on about Google and analytics, the next topic we wanted to sort of address is understanding the business KPIs. Aditya will take that over.
Thanks, Rashmila. So again, we saw that one of the objectives was to design the KPIs for business. Before we get into that, I just wanted to understand what exactly we are looking, what exactly we mean by KPIs here, because so the KPIs can vary for different teams, right? Like maybe for a sales team, revenue could be the KPI. For a tech team, the quality of build can be the KPI. So are we targeting for KPIs for separate specific teams, or is it for like overall broad objective?
It's a good question. I did some preparation for that question. So let's look at it from the customer side, right? What I have a list of KPIs that a user can use Abacus for to satisfy those KPIs. So the data that comes from Abacus, the download of the library, can help with a number of KPIs for the user, for the nonprofit. And I think I put that in the user folder, user data folder, a list of those things. So those are reasonably known. When it comes to then the business side, there's a lot of literature on SaaS metrics, and you can go on forever figuring out when you are a company like Stripe, where you have millions of users, or Square, that have millions of users, hundreds of millions of users. The depth of those analytics are crazy. We don't have that kind of right now. We don't. My work plan, my investment plan is for obviously much more robust sales, and I have in my head some things that you're always watching, right? But I don't know how much I should give you on that subject versus you discovering what a SaaS business should be looking at. Right? But certainly, you're looking at just gross sales and that sort of thing. You're looking at how long someone stays a subscriber. What's the attrition rate? Right? Very important in SaaS. What's your attrition rate? You get a customer, do you keep them? And that's the big one. It's easier to get a customer and it's easier to keep a customer and cheaper to keep a customer than to get a customer. So once you get them, you got to keep them. Same in fundraising. Once you have a donor, you need to keep the donor. That's the holy grail, and that's the hard part in SaaS in general, and in database use, in services that serve nonprofits, the text to give sorts of companies and so forth. They may leave you in 2 or 3 years. A new person comes in and they use that one and not this one, and they change, right? So those kinds of measures are going to be very important. And so I would ask you to generate a list. And what I often do with my clients is, they'll get a list of all these KPIs for fundraising. that would take you all day, take you 3 days a month just to complete the data in the dashboard. It's crazy. It's not useful. So we would decide what are the important ones. What are the ones we really want to lean on, really want to focus on, which would then drive everyone else's activity in the company. Right, to build that dashboard and to watch the trend lines and then figure out how to feed the dashboard in some automated way. I mean, that would be sweet.
Correct.
And by time I get funded, so far so good, there'll be a robust CRM that will be brought online that will be following all the digital marketing activity as well as the face-to-face sales activity. It'll handle everything, and that will be the source of data, and that will be the place for the dashboard.
Mhm.
Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, it does. So I think it's given good clarity. So we have maybe let's say two sets of KPIs. One is what the customer sees when they download a report or something, and then the other is more the business KPIs that we internally track, which are the SaaS KPIs. And we want to primarily work on these SaaS KPIs, and we'll come up with we will do the research from our end, and we can see which KPIs would be important, balance between importance versus feasibility, and we'll try to come up with that optimal list. And for the data,
I would suggest don't try very hard to come up with the optimal list.
yeah.
Come up with a robust list,
Mhm.
and then let's discuss each one and make this and decide what's really important and what's not.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd rather, it's much easier to subtract from a
Mhm.
list than to add to a list.
Got it. Yeah. So makes sense. Again, we've also got clarity on where these data might be coming from. So, CRM, website analytics, maybe even subscriber database, etc., could be used to gather data for these KPIs. And also, ideally, we would want to keep it automated so that whenever we get a new data, the dashboard refreshes and we see the new analytics in a periodic fashion, maybe, once a week, once a month, or something like that. So
Right.
uh,
Right.
that is also clear. And finally, uh, we wanted to ask, like, I had one question which might be even linked to the timeline of this, which is, are there going to be any restrictions in access? Like, whatever we create, do we want everyone in Abacus to see all the KPIs, or do we want, like, maybe you or John to see the entire list, and then the other people say, like, see a part of the list, and so on, it funnels as you go down the ladder. So
Well, we'll be starting out small. So the four main sort of employees besides me will be John, who will be the chief sales and marketing person.
Mhm.
I've recruited a chief technology officer. He used to be the IT director of IT for Gannett newspapers. You've heard of USA Today newspaper? That's published by Gannett, as well as dozens and dozens of other publications. And my friend Connor took an early retirement package, and he's willing to step up.
Okay.
And then another friend who is retired used to be very, very high level sales in the credit card world. So he did international and national account work, and he'll be the director of enterprise sales. And then I'll be hiring. Would an organizational chart at the beginning, would that be helpful for you to see
Yeah,
now, or should I put it someplace?
you can put it someplace. That should be okay.
All right. And then I plan on hiring a director of customer success.
Mhm.
And that will be the person who will follow up when someone signs up. Yeah, they'll get their emails, but we're also going to talk to them, offer to do a demo, etc. Embrace them. That's how you keep them. And so one of the KPIs for us is usage per subscriber, the number of profiles that are generated per subscriber, for instance, per month, per week. You know, when we really get some volume, we'd like to be good to see what is the average or median level of activity by a subscriber. Now you'll have some uh, supercharged users, and then there'll be some people who just pop in every now and then.
Mhm.
And knowing that would be really important for
Makes-
particularly for the customer success director, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Like I can already see like a few of these, like, understanding the median profiles that you get, maybe 10th and 90th percentile and stuff like that. That will give us good clarity on what is the range, and maybe, depending on the range, maybe not right away, but then in the future, it might also help with planning the cloud architecture, and then how much server space or energy you need to put up with this kind of activity and all those. I think it's a good start for an interesting journey.
Good.
Before I just hand it over to Nivi, I just had one final question, and
Sure.
that was on where exactly we want to see this analytics. So right now we use Google Analytics to see a few of these KPIs, like whatever Google Analytics provides. So is it going to be like Google Analytics, or are we going to use something like Tableau, Power BI, or like
You tell me.
you're open to it?
You tell me.
Okay.
That's your area of expertise.
Mhm.
I know enough not uh, to get my hands in that.
No, no, I wanted to ask because if you already had something in your organization, it might be best to
Just
discuss.
Google Analytics is the only real thing we have. John and I looked at a couple of analytic tracking, I think something called Cause. I have a record of it, but there's a guy who builds these big Google sheet uh, that link into where the data is, and does the analytics. So there are businesses that do this, and it's probably useful for you to learn what some of those businesses do, obviously, which I did, and John and I did, but we haven't been in a position to implement or execute any of that yet.
Okay. Yeah.
And
I think
I don't need the best and the greatest.
Mhm.
You need what is adequate. You know what they say about minimal viable product? You know that term?
MVP.
Right. So Abacus is a minimal viable product plus a little bit. I was gratified that this fellow I'm working with, who is, I may have mentioned it, we'll call him Big John. You know John Gittleman, but this fellow he's retired attorney. He's done a lot of mergers and acquisition and business startup work, and he is an investor, and he knows investors and angel investors. He's a consultant to big angel funds in town, and he's taken me under his wing. And I've had 3 meetings with him now, and our presentation is almost done. But he said in this last meeting that he went to the website, the Abacus website, and was blown away by it. He said, companies at your stage of development simply don't have websites that good. and that thorough and informative and he was really tripping over himself, being kind and complimentary, which is very encouraging to me. So we're in a solid place for growth, but you're going to be so helpful in making sure we get it right the first time instead of having to go back and fix something.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why this is so great. And your work's going to be very impactful to the trajectory of Abacus.
That completely makes sense. I think we were also internally discussing as a team on why this is like a great time for us to work in the project, both for us and even for Abacus. And what even we realized was right now there's no competition. Like Abacus already has the first mover advantage, uh, and before more competition comes up, which eventually might, if we are able to up the game even one step further, then we would be that much clear of the competition. So I think doing getting the base solid at this point when there's no competition will for sure be very helpful. And also like also thinking a bit futuristic, like all these AI, ML, those chatbot kind of incorporation that only make it much more better. So yeah.
And I know, when I saw the fact that you could actually build a chatbot, is that what I
Mhm.
saw?
Yeah.
I mean, I am like, that's like, for me, that's out of this world. But to be able to, I use AI. I mean, I use it, right? And for copy mostly. But to be able to feed it a data set and ask questions about the data set for a subscriber to be able to do that would be fantastic.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? That part of your subscription means that when you construct your library of hundreds of profiles, if not thousands, if it's in a database, you can then run this chatbot that's sort of designed to understand your data set. That's how I'm understanding the chatbot discussion. I may be coming at this all differently than you, and this may or may not be the right time to talk about it, but I think that there's a place for it, to be sure.
Yep. And I think Nidhi would be carrying that conversation forward.
So sections 4 and 5 were about the chatbot, the persona builder, and predictive analytics. And these sections were pretty detailed already, but we were wondering if there was any additional information about implementation that you wanted to talk about that wasn't on the project description. And also, if there's anything about natural language processing that you wanted to add.
Right. Well, nothing about natural language processing. In terms of implementation, that ball is in your court, I think, more than anything. We have a common place to put our work product, right, in the folder. We'll all continue to feed it, create new folders as needed, add to existing folders, and chart our progress using the work plan document and sheets that we talked about last week. Let's just leave it as once we get going, we'll get a rhythm to the work and we'll pause and see if it's working or not, right? And what changes need to happen, and that's how you grow. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Will your teaching this assistant, I forget her name, will she be ever joining us, or is she out of the picture?
Yeah, I think we only contact her if we have questions. She's not like an active participant in these things.
Okay, yeah, I had a different understanding. I just wanted to be clear. So this is the team.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, good.
So I actually, if we are done with all objective discussion, now that we have a bit more clarity on what to do with and what is the expectation with each and every objective, we were hoping to get like an idea of what priority each objective holds, so that we can take it up, mm, as in with each priority. Let's say if we want to work on the data pipeline and setting up the KPI objectives first, then we would that is what we would make space for first, followed by then
I see.
working on increasing
The
sign up rate.
sequence, yeah.
Yes, exactly, sequentially. So we just
So,
wanted to get like a priority of all of this.
so help me understand, will you all be working as a force, as a group on each element
Mhm.
together in the same time frame? Okay, okay, that's helpful to know. Well, I think everything starts with the user and understanding the user. So I guess the survey, the maybe ability to contact people who've been to the website and left, the analytics of the website and understanding that constellation of things. It's not just the people who tried it and didn't like it or who are using it. It's also the other people who have been curious. If you can look into that world, and then we could probably put together, or you can draft, and I'll send you what we did, some thoughts on surveys to target certain pieces of information that are important, then that to me would be first. Other things would follow from that. It could inform the chatbot, for instance. The things we learn there can inform lots of other things, and not the other way around. It's all about the customer. At the end of the day, it's all about the customer and the users.
So we actually had an idea of how we would ideally want to take it forward, and we were also thinking along the same lines that we would like to start with, let's say, collecting more information about the user first, and if that means working on the LinkedIn scraping or just fine-tuning the existing data that we have, improving the database, followed by identifying what kind of KPIs and metrics we would want to measure on both on a high level and on an objective to objective basis, so that while we are measuring metrics for each and every objective, we are also adhering to a larger metric at point. In this case, I think it would be impact on overall sales. Um, um, and so what we were thinking is, first we would start with fine tuning and improving the data pipeline, the LinkedIn web scraping, followed by KPI identification. And then we start off with objective 1 and 2, which would be increasing the user sign up and increasing the number of subscribers who convert to paying users, followed by chatbot and improving chatbot efficiency. I believe that would take a little bit more research from our side as well, into how we want to get into it and what kind of method would be best to implement it. So let's say while we are doing this, it also gives us some time to research on how we want to be implementing the chatbot and what essentially we want to measure when we talk about predictive accuracy of the chatbot.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you
It
think?
sounds,
Okay.
write all that down.
Yeah, of
Capture
course.
that.
Of course. Yeah.
Just one thing before we drop off. So we've aligned on the priority, and I think it's been a very productive meeting. We've got a lot of clarity, and then we've also aligned on the priority of what we want to do. For next week, what we were thinking is that we will try to synthesize this and then maybe put it into a slide on what exactly we understood. Like, try to put it in our own words to just be double sure that we are on the same page. So we would be doing that next week, where we put down the project objectives and then maybe quick plan of something that we might want to do. And we also wanted to discuss the timeline. So we have the priority now. Is there any particular date or maybe like, month or something that you're seeing for each of these? So that, if we have some initial idea, we can work with creating a detailed timeline based on that.
Well, yeah, let's look at the what before we figure out the when.
Okay.
Fair enough. I would also ask that you not write it into an email, but write it into a Word document or a Google Doc or, something that is can be separated, is separate from the email per se. And that can be put into our folder, right?
Yeah.
A document.
I think the what we were thinking more like a PPT, like a PowerPoint.
A what?
We would create more like a PowerPoint slide.
Okay, PowerPoint's great. Yep, I'm all over PowerPoint. That'll work.
One more quick point. So I think next week we schedule the presentation with you.
Yep.
But these are exactly the kind of things we would be sharing with you, just giving you heads up. All the information that we will be covering, we will, as you mentioned, we will give you a heads up over our Google Docs as well. And before we share it with you on the presentation, we'll be sharing the deck with you before time as well, so you can take a look at it. But essentially, these are the kind of things we will be covering, what our timeline will look like, what kind of method we plan to approach. So that's why also we wanted to get an understanding of if testing is a way to A/B testing is a way to go about it. I think we will add in the user research, user surveying section now as part of the slide deck. And we would be, since we don't have, with just getting to know the data, we would be using like dummy data for now, just to give an idea of how we want the end result to look at. So just wanted to give you a heads up that the dummy data does not mean anything. We will just use it to give you a visualization of what and how we plan to use Abacus's data.
Okay, sounds right. Thank you. I look forward to it.
Okay.
I think this is what we had for today.
Okay.
Thanks for
Perfect.
use.
Productive meeting. Thank you. I look forward to next week. I'm going to be taking a little mini vacation, long week on Cape Cod. So I'm going to sort of be out of touch I'm going to try and be out of touch for a few days, but I'll be back certainly for our meeting on Wednesday.
All right. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.
You too.
I'll create a folder, a YouTube folder, and a sheet with all the links on it. Okay.
Got it. Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.